Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following all the news which have been reported by American, European, Canadian, Asian, African, and Australian channels and AFP, AP, Reuters news agencies. Now, please watch the news headlines.
Tonight, the breaking news has come on the air. A gunman opening fire on a U.S. Army base. Multiple soldiers shot and wounded. Soldiers running for cover as gunfire erupts at Fort Stewart. Military officials say an active duty sergeant armed with his personal handgun opening fire. 5 soldiers shot and wounded. The dangerous air tonight. Millions of Americans from the Midwest to the Northeast, New York City, and Chicago reaching alarming numbers when it comes to air quality. And the with hurricane season nearing, we're now watching 2 systems in the Atlantic. Lee Goldberg is here. Also breaking just days after Ghislaine Maxwell was transferred from a federal prison in Florida to a prison camp in Texas with more favorable conditions. Tonight we have new reporting here, what's happening at that prison. Tonight, President Trump just a short time ago saying he and Vladimir Putin could soon meet. So what does this mean for the war in Ukraine? Martha Raddatz standing by. Tonight, authorities arresting a woman accused of posing as a registered nurse, allegedly treating more than 4,400 patients. Tonight, the daring rescue mission in Antarctica to get to a U.S. facility. Staff in need of medical care there, landing in near total darkness and on a runway made of ice. Tonight, a chilling arrest at the airport in West Palm Beach, Florida. Deputies arresting a man allegedly finding a loaded AR-15 style rifle in his rental car. Tonight, your news on Brad Pitt's mother, often seen by his side on the red carpet through the years. Tonight, the family paying tribute and what they're saying about his mother, Jane. A major league milestone tonight, the league's first female umpire about to take the field for a regular season game. Also, the blockbuster deal between ESPN and the NFL, remembering a well-known actress known for her role on The Walking Dead, and the evacuations after discovering a World War II bomb. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World.
So with that, we bring in Dan Hoffman, former CIA station chief based in Moscow and a Fox News contributor. Dan, great to have you with us today. What's your reaction to Putin saying that he wants a meeting with Trump? And do you think he will accept a meeting with Trump and Zelensky that can only happen if he assures he will end this war?
Yeah, well, first I would tell you from my experience of having tried to see the world through the twisted KGB eyes of Vladimir Putin for decades when I was serving at CIA, President Trump will be asking the intelligence community for some reflections about what's going on in the Kremlin, what's motivating Vladimir Putin. Is this an act of desperation on Putin's part because he's concerned about those sanctions that are supposed to hit in 2 days? Did Putin take to heart President Trump's decision to deploy 2 submarines in the region after Putin's deputy national security advisor Medvedev made such irresponsible comments about nuclear threats and rhetorical nuclear brinkmanship? Those are questions yet to be answered. Peter's right. There's lots of work to be done, preparatory work. It's a time to mistrust and verify Vladimir Putin. Russia's demands have been maximalists. They want regime change in Ukraine. They want a puppet regime there. They want to control Kyiv and the central government. And they've never really offered up any real peace proposals. So there's a lot of work yet to be done.
You know, Peter also mentioned oil, and these sanctions would crack down on oil sales from Russia. They are a one material commodity economy, as you know better than anybody, having spent so much time there. So is that the real concern potentially for Putin on his big buyers in China and in India, which has been, really sort of testing its relationship with the United States over all this?
Yeah, I think that's right. And look, China and India hold all the cards. They're importing oil at reduced prices. Russia is very much a junior partner in those relationships, commercial relationships, and certainly the overall strategic relationship with China. So Peter raised a good question, the question of whether India and China in particular have been reaching out to Vladimir Putin and telling him that he needs to strike a deal here. So we'll just have to wait and see how things shake out in the coming days.
Yeah, they have a lot of cards as the major customers, and if they're going to keep buying, they may want to be in an environment that's a little bit less risky than this one. Dan, thank you very much.
Parts of Newfoundland and Labrador are up in flames this Wednesday night.
But his house is gone, people's lives turned upside down.
The evacuations and what the province may do to try to prevent new wildfires. The U.S. Health Secretary cancels funding for mRNA vaccine development programs, why critics call it a bad day for science. The potential itinerary of a strike at Air Canada.
We're incredibly hopeful that there won't be job action.
When flight attendants could walk off the job and what travelers need to know. Plus, 80 years since an atomic bomb exploded over Hiroshima. Fears rise about the potential of nuclear warfare.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Newfoundland and Labrador's Premier says all hands are on deck to fight 3 out-of-control wildfires in that province. Some residents on the northern shore of Conception Bay fear their homes may not have survived the biggest fire. It doubled in size overnight and has burned more than 1,400 hectares. The number of communities, roughly 130 kilometers northwest of St. John's, are under evacuation orders right now. Heidi Petrachik explains what evacuees are going through and what the Premier is considering to prevent the emergency from escalating.
Hey, you gotta be good. It's another night sleeping in his truck for David Hollett with his 2 dogs, 2 turtles, and pet rabbit tucked in with him.
So that's my rabbit Jimmy.
He hasn't seen his house in nearby Adams Cove since he fled Wildfire Monday.
I'm in truck, sleeping, and I close my eyes and all I see is flames.
An elementary school 20 minutes away is now a comfort center for those forced from their homes by the raging wildfire.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's expanded military offensive in the Gaza Strip has claimed at least 135 lives over the past 24 hours. Among the dead are 87 starving Palestinians killed while seeking aid. Survivors of one of the attacks were taken to Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis.
The guys who were there were waiting for the aid. They told people to go there. They hit young men and women there. They threw bombs on them, live bullets, and most of the injuries here are due to bombs. I came with my friend who is injured, and this man was also injured. We moved him with us here. They should deliver the aid in a proper way to reach us. For example, this torment we saw the death in all forms.
In central Gaza, 25 people were crushed to death when a humanitarian aid truck overturned onto a crowd hoping to receive a meal. Gaza officials say Israeli forces have forced drivers to take unsafe routes on delivery runs. Meanwhile, only 85 aid trucks reportedly crossed into Gaza Tuesday, once again falling far short of the 600 trucks daily aid organizations say are needed to supply Gaza's basic needs. Gaza's health ministry reports another 5 people died due to famine and malnutrition over the past day, bringing the starvation-related death toll to 193. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott Tuesday asked the Texas Supreme Court to remove Democratic Caucus Chair Jean Wu from office after Wu and more than 50 Democratic legislators fled Texas to block Republicans from redrawing its congressional district map. This is
Tonight, the mass shooting at one of America's biggest military bases, soldiers forced to take down one of their own. The scramble to safety at Fort Stewart. The Army saying the gunman targeted members of his own unit. That soldier, an active duty sergeant, using a personal handgun to open fire before being tackled by fellow soldiers. 5 military members shot, all of them somehow surviving. What we're learning about the sergeant's troubling past. The flash flood emergency emergency in the south. 2 people swept away in the rising waters. And the west on fire. Wildfire sparking from Texas to Washington to California and Arizona. Phoenix on track to break a heat record, and the smoke and haze choking the skies on the East Coast. Also breaking tonight, will President Trump meet face-to-face with Vladimir Putin and possibly President Zelensky to discuss a ceasefire? As top Trump officials grapple with pressure over the Epstein files, what we're learning tonight. Also, a bomb threat taking the Texas fight over redistricting to a new level of tension. The Midtown Manhattan shooter's brushes with the law years before his rampage. What body cam and 911 calls just released reveal about his mental health. Claire's, the mall mainstay where so many kids had their ears pierced, filing for bankruptcy. And meet me in Miami, how a trip to the heart of Little Havana transformed Al Roker into his alter ego, Alberto. Nightly News starts right now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas.
They had an active shooter on Fort Stewart.
Soldiers scramble for safety as a gunman opens fire at an Army base in Georgia.
EMS trucks on scene, multiple people injured.
A group of unarmed soldiers credited with stopping the attack.
From the CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois. John Dickerson is off. The largest U.S. Army base in the East turned into a crime scene today when a gunman opened fire, wounding 5 soldiers. It happened at Fort Stewart, Georgia, about 40 miles southwest of Savannah. The wounded were taken to 2 hospitals. All are expected to recover. Officials say the suspected shooter is in custody thanks to a group of brave, unarmed soldiers who prevented even more violence. It was the first mass shooting at a U.S. military installation in more than 5 years. Skylar Henry is at Fort Stewart tonight. Skylar, what are you learning?
Hey, Maurice, investigators say the suspected shooter was able to bring his personal weapon through a heavily secured gate here at Fort Stewart, where he shot and wounded 5 of his fellow soldiers. Cell phone video shows soldiers rushing from their barracks.
They had an active shooter on Fort Stewart.
Just before 11 this morning, calls came in for help at the Army garrison on the north side of Fort Stewart. 40 minutes later, it was all over.
They're also advising 1 shooter is in custody.
Military investigators identified the suspected gunman as 28-year-old Cornelius Radford, an active-duty Army logistics sergeant who has never been deployed overseas.
The shooting occurred at the soldier's place of work. It did involve his co-workers. We're still not certain about the motivations, but again, he's been interviewed by Army investigators, and we believe we'll gain more information here shortly.
According to Brigadier General John Lupus, soldiers tackled the gunman to stop the attack.
These soldiers, without a doubt, prevented further casualties.
The 5 wounded soldiers were transported to a hospital on base. 3 required surgery. All are expected to make a full recovery. Fort Stewart is the largest U.S. Army base east of the Mississippi River, covering roughly 450 square miles. It's home to the Army's 3rd Infantry Division, which fought in both World Wars, Iraq, and most recently.
Good morning. Could this be the dawn of a new era and the end to the Ukraine war?
Well, the US President Donald Trump hopes to persuade Russian President Vladimir Putin to meet him face to face.
It's a very good chance that we could be ending the round, ending the end to that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
Well, it could all happen then, potentially within a matter of days. Would President Zelensky join them?
The government's migrant returns deal faces setbacks before it's even got off the ground as 150 people crossed the channel on day 1 of the agreement.
The Conservatives put pressure on the government to reject all asylum claims from migrants working illegally.
Surrounded by solar, a Northamptonshire village is up in arms at the prospect of a new solar panel farm, with the local MP leading calls to abandon the plans.
You're going to be taking agricultural fields out of use and replacing it with solar panels when there are warehouses, there are car parking spaces and other dead spaces you can use. That's the right place, not here.
The university students becoming less intelligent. More A-level pupils than ever are expected to receive offers despite not having the grade requirements. We'll debate that later on.
And in sport this morning, Alexander Isak trains alone as he and Newcastle are officially out of love. Heung-min Son, Chelsea's moved to Los Angeles. Just a spoiler during the sport, there's going to be tears involved in that. And from me and Eubank Jr. versus Ben, the rematch is on for November.
Paul, thank you. Just on 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Coming soon on France 24.
Good morning, I'm Oliver Farry, and this is Daybreak. Donald Trump's tariffs on global imports come into force today, with impositions ranging from 10 to 50%. Trump also announced 100% tariffs to come on semiconductor imports. India gets an extra 25% as punishment for buying Russian oil. Donald Trump says there is a high probability of meeting with Vladimir Putin following talks between Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and the Russian president. But Secretary of State Marco Rubio says more differences need to be ironed out before the meeting can take place. And one person is dead and 3 missing in France's biggest wildfire of the summer, which Prime Minister François Bayrou has called a disaster on an unprecedented scale. The blaze in the southern Aude region has burned through 16,000 hectares, mobilizing more than 2,000 firefighters to battle the flames.
Hello there and good morning. It is 6 a.m. on today's breakfast show. A Trump-Putin summit over Ukraine now on the cards as early as next week.
Plus, the Tories call for asylum seekers who work illegally to be immediately returned to their country of origin.
It is Thursday, the 7th of August. First is envoy, now a potential face-to-face himself. Confirmation Donald Trump could meet Vladimir Putin as early as next week.
The road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
We see how the legal profession remained deeply skeptical about how proposed court reforms could work and whether they'll actually deliver swifter justice. As the health secretary plans to crack down on cowboy cosmetics, we hear from a mother whose daughter almost lost a leg to a botched procedure.
Sorry. Louise was hysterical at this point.
And in the sport, it looks like Manchester United have beaten Newcastle United in the race to sign the striker, Benjamin Šeško. Hello and thanks for being with us. The White House has said that President Trump could meet President Vladimir Putin next week in person to discuss a ceasefire for Ukraine. However, there are reports.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. Donald Trump says he's likely to meet very soon with Russian President Vladimir Putin in a summit he hopes could bring about an end to the war in Ukraine. The US president praised great progress made Wednesday by his special envoy Steve Witkoff in a meeting with Putin in Moscow. Trump also said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky could meet Putin as well next week. What are their expectations today? India's External Affairs Ministry has described Washington's plan to place an additional 25% tariff on Indian goods as, quote, extremely unfortunate. The new measure raises tariffs on some goods to as high as 50%. The US says the tariffs are due to New Delhi's continued imports of Russian oil. France's largest wildfire of the summer is burning out of control for a second day, driven by hot, dry and windy conditions. In the Aude region near the Spanish border, the fire has burned through over 12,000 hectares. So far, one person has been killed and several more injured. This is DW News from Berlin. You'll find more on our website at dw.com.
Starts Wednesday, 8:30. Today, around 20 Gazans reportedly killed after an aid truck overturns, as Israel considers further military action in the besieged territory. US President Donald Trump's reciprocal 10% tariffs take effect on Australia as the White House doubles import taxes on Indian products. Concerns raised over the amount of time it takes to get life-saving medicines added to the pharmaceutical benefits scheme. And put to the test, some electric vehicle models found to be falling short on their advertised driving range. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ross Childs. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza continues to worsen, with local health authorities saying that more than 20 people were killed when a convoy of aid trucks was swarmed by a desperate crowd. Another 5 people have died of starvation. The reported death toll from starvation is quickly approaching 200, but Israel insists it is letting more aid into the...
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Rani Samtani. At this hour, President Donald Trump threatens a new 100% tariff on foreign-made semiconductors as he pushes to bring manufacturing back to the U.S.
The good news for companies like Apple is if you're building in the United States or have committed to build, without question committed to build in the United States, there will be no charge.
As U.S. reciprocal tariffs take effect this hour, India is slammed with an additional 25% levy over its Russian oil imports, bringing total duties on the country's goods to 50%. And Malaysia is hosting crucial talks between Thai and Cambodian defense ministers to finalize the details of their cross-border ceasefire.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Amna Nawaz is away. On the News Hour tonight, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. pulls hundreds of millions of dollars in funding from the kinds of vaccines that were critical during the COVID pandemic. The standoff over redistricting in Texas continues as Republicans escalate their threats against absent Democrats. And Judy Woodruff explores whether artificial intelligence could help Americans find common ground.
We probably should be judging ideas on their merit, not who said them.
Security forces of the Central African Republic are reintegrated into socio-economic activities. The entire population of Malome is in joy. For us, peace is finally here. Our children, our brothers and our parents who are in the bush have voluntarily and with open hearts chosen to lay down their arms. We extend our sincere thanks to the government and MINUSCA for their constant support in this process. The disarmament operation carried out in Malome have allowed for the removal of former UPC commandants of a significant arsenal, including hundreds of war weapons such as PKM machine guns and RPG-7 rocket launchers, as well as ammunition of various calibers.
Sudanese authorities have indicted Mohamed Hamdan Daglo, the leader of the Rapid Support Forces, and his brother in absentia on charges including killing of Darfur's governor and genocide linked to mass ethnic violence in the region. The charges stem from abduction and killing of West Darfur governor in June 2023, whose dismembered body was circulating online, escalating domestic international outrage. Alongside them, 14 RSF members have been implicated in the case. This indictment comes as the United States formally declared that RSF has committed genocide, citing systematic ethnic killings and sexual violence against groups such as the Masalit in Darfur. Meanwhile, the International Criminal Court, ICC, has signaled plans to seek arrest warrants for perpetrators of atrocity crimes in West Darfur, noting disturbing parallels with the genocide of early 2000s.
The Sudan army is accusing the United Arab Emirates of sending Colombian mercenaries to fight alongside the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or known as RSF, against the military in the country's civil war. In a statement issued on Monday, the Sudanese government said that it has irrefutable evidence confirming mercenaries from Colombia and some neighboring African countries were sponsored and financed by Emirati authorities. The statement did not share the evidence or name the neighboring countries. The UAE Foreign Affairs Ministry later responded, rejecting the allegations and denying involvement in the war by backing armed groups. Sudan had previously also accused Kenya of supporting the RSF and also supplying them with weapons. The civil war in Sudan erupted in April 2023 in Khartoum before spreading across the country following simmering tensions between the RSF and the army. The fighting has killed over 40,000 people, displaced as many as 12 million, and pushed many to the brink of famine.
Thank you for watching Ahmed Shakil 5858. I am Ahmed Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.